Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, co-host of Escape from the City on the ABC, and partner of Empower Wealth Advisory. Ben Kingsley, chair of Property Investors Council of Australia and the founder of Empower Wealth Advisory, named the 2018 and 2019 Property Advisory Firm of the Year. Stay tuned as they bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch. Welcome to the couch, Ben.
Hey, mate, is that a new intro?
After 253 episodes of saying the same thing at the beginning, I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a chat to your mate, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Jason Gray.
Can you actually do a little bit of the heavy lifting for me?
Dulcet tones, beautiful. Thanks, Jace. But yes, we've got a new intro.
Thanks for noticing too. I appreciate that. So how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah, good.
You've recently been over to the colder part of the world?
Quick trip. I was over in Ireland for a study tour on the finance markets over there and having a look at, what's happening in terms of European lending markets and also the UK lending market. So yeah, interesting.
Any sort of bullet points, question without notice that might be helpful that you've sort of observed over there that our community might sort of...
Yeah, okay. So Ireland's market is very difficult, right? So we think about the challenges we've got here, but here's an indication of how challenging it is over there. Their central bank puts a cap on servicing. So there's only 6 lenders in that market and the maximum borrowing power is 3.5 times your household income. Done. So where's the competition? So there isn't. And there's bugger all product variety. And I also noticed that in the UK as well in terms of looking at their market. So Australia invented the offset product. So we've got that obviously here, but there's very limited product innovation that's going on over there. But what they are very, very good at is technology, and their, the PS2, which is basically their open banking in the UK, is certainly making for changes there. But what was interesting is they haven't mandated that on the mortgage side, so they're only mandating the lenders to give an indication of transactional banking, and that's good. But what we're trying to do here in Australia with our open banking policy is to actually, it's all about competition. And so it means that, new bank entrants can come into the market here in Australia, and we're seeing some of that happening now, and we'll see more of that. And the oligopoly that we've got with the big 4 banks, they're trying to, basically put more competition in there. I think, the big banks have around 75% of all the mortgage market. Now that's where most of the money's made in terms of lending. So, and then we had a look at the Netherlands market, which is a fee-for-service model. So, no, it was interesting. I mean, it was, the whole thing showed us that they're very, very good at marketing and penetrating the market, and big call centres are doing a lot. So I think there is a focus on how people look at their money, and I've got something in our Did You Know you can hang around for.
All right, I will hang around for that.
Household financial waste in Australia.
Okay.
So
did I see a sneaky photo of you at Google?
Yes, we went to Google as well. Ireland has...
Just for the benefit of the listeners, the first time we've caught up since we
haven't had a chat since I've been back. So Ireland has a 12.5% corporate tax rate. So that's very nice. Attractive, right? Yeah. And obviously they're part of the EU before Brexit, and obviously Ireland's independent, and so Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and that's where the problem is with Brexit, right? But that's another story. We went through that as well. It was a bit of fun. So the reality is Google have set up their Europe operations out of Ireland. So Dublin as a city, has just this whole energy around youth. There's when you're going out at night, whether it be a Saturday night or a Tuesday night, the amount of pubs and bars, it did shock me in terms of, I reckon there would be 700 drinking establishments within a 5-kilometre radius. Yeah. It's incredible. So the place has got a bars, it's happening, but yeah, housing affordability, supply, all of those things are still constrained. But I think they're constrained because they're very, very tight on, the Reserve Bank of Ireland is very, very stringent, which I just told you about. And that is a product of, so in typical numbers, I'll give you these numbers because this is where it was quite fascinating. So typical household borrowings were, you're able to, average household mortgage ability, borrowing power is €230,000. Yet the average home in the inner area of Dublin is 400,000.
There's a shortfall.
There's a massive shortfall. And so what's also happening is the yields in Ireland, which is in euro, right, are around 7 to 8%. So they're getting a lot of investment into building these apartment complexes because everyone has to rent. right? So they're making a fortune. And that won't stop because basically the banks are limiting the ability for people to borrow, which means that there's a huge supply shortage and strong demand. And so rental accommodation is at a premium over there. So they need to do something about that. I mean, you know, if you don't have that open market working, you're going to get these types of imbalances. And so the people who are obviously on high household incomes get an advantage because they really have no competition at that higher end. But the price points at the lower end are crazy in terms of no one can buy in. So they've all got to go out wide. And they've got congestion issues like, you know, any city that's growing. And obviously they're recovering from the very, very deep recession they had at the back end of the GFC. And, you know, that also, you know, they had a bad property bubble over there and, you know, they were booming up until that time. So, yeah, it is interesting in terms of what's happening over there and what's happening in the UK and again, the Netherlands market, which has a different model, which is the brokerage model, and not a lot of European countries have mortgage brokers. So, you know, I think we've got a good model here in Australia.
Yeah.
I think the regulatory model that we've got here is quite good. We're seeing some trends out of the UK that I don't think is really positive. So they have a thing called execution only. So in other words, you know, where you go and get great advice around strategy and structuring and those types of things, what they're sort of saying is technology is allowing you to basically pick your own mortgage. And so if you do that, that's what's going to be called an execution only, and you don't have to get the advice piece around that. And they think that might be good for good customer outcomes. And I'm thinking, well, if it's a vanilla mortgage that you need to get, maybe. But if you're actually trying to be sophisticated in terms of how you want to manage your money,
that's right,
you need advice, right? And so I feel that, you know, the regulators are doing that to try and make it a cheap, you know, regulators just think cheap is best. And we know that, you know, we've talked about this on the podcast long enough, that it is not best to just have the cheapest mortgage, the cheapest. In some cases it is, but it's not all cases.
It's not the first part of the discussion.
And if the regulators are just trying to metric it against one variable, they're making a big mistake. So we'll see what happens.
Mate, so folks, stick around because it looks like we're going to get some more insights from Ben's trip over there, which is great. We've got a very special guest today, Ben, that I want to get to very quickly. But before we do, a couple of things.
Some housekeeping.
We have just want to make money simple again.com.au.
Yes.
We're making the whole book free.
Yes.
For a limited time, and a few people have reached out to you, Ben.
Yeah, they have. They're asking the question of whether they can share that link to other people, and the simple answer is absolutely.
Yep.
Share the link. They can choose their own adventure in terms of which case study they want to see at the back of the book. And
so
also,
if you've got a newsletter, if you're an accountant, if you're a property manager, if you're a business, and you want to put that link in there,
you've got our
full permission.
You've got our full permission, and I think
because it's only for a limited time, because we're going to take it down at some stage.
Yeah, and businesses can benefit from that because if they've got happy staff and they're managing their money well, you know, it takes pressure off them as well. So I think, you know, they're more productive, they're not worrying about that. So, you know, hence this whole movement is really important. So yes, if you've got a newsletter, as you're saying, Bryce, if you've got anywhere that you want to promote it on your internal, you know, news board or whatever, do it.
All we ask is to give the link, not the book.
Yeah.
So
then they miss out on, you know, if they want a rapid deposit saver or if they want something along those lines, they're going to miss out on the right case study. So
full permission, open source.
Send it to whoever you want to.
It is for a limited time. We want to get it into as many people's hands as we possibly can. So that's that. I'm also doing a shout out, Ben. We're doing a summer series this year, like we do every year.
Good to know.
And it's and it's part of getting people on board and we're looking for single. I've got most demographics, but I don't have a single investor. Person who's an investor who's either used Money Smarts or the TPC or a combination of everything.
Nice.
We want to hear from you. We've also got a relay in Melbourne as part of our team, Ben.
Yes.
It's a fun and moving overnight experience that raises vital funds for Cancer Council's Research, Prevention, Information and Support Service. Relay is a chance for the Melbourne community to recognise and celebrate local cancer survivors, patients and their carers, to honour and remember loved ones lost to cancer and to raise money to help save more lives. So we're part of that. So if you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/relay for life, we're looking to raise $5,000. We've got a big community here, Ben, so everyone threw in a couple of shekels, $2 each. We'd certainly get to
I'll be doing some laps on Saturday morning. Saturday up until around midday.
You're doing the 3 a.m. shift, are you?
I'm not doing the 3 a.m. I actually have a school reunion, my 30th school reunion.
Well, you will be doing the 3 a.m. shift there.
In a different location. Yeah, I've never been to a school reunion before, but I'm getting
I'm busting to get to our guests, but I think you've got
one more thing. Just that Victoria Picker have a special guest event on the Victorian property market update. Greville Pabst obviously who's a great friend of the Property Couch. We've had him on. He's also a valuer, very well-known valuer,
very well-known.
on the block on Channel 9. He's doing as I said, Victorian Property Market update on the 31st of October, 7 p.m. in Docklands. Details will be in the show notes. The Eventbrite link, so you can go to that. So get along if you want to get an update on the Victorian property market with our Victorian Council here on Picker.
All right, should pop along to that, it'd be great. My mindset minute today, Ben, is you will never be criticised by someone who's doing more than you. You will only be criticised by someone doing less.
Yes.
So I'm going to read that again just to let it land.
Yeah.
You will never be criticised by someone who's doing more than you. You'll only be criticised by someone doing less. Now, I use that as a segue into our guest today, because he's been in a big arena, he's in professional sport, he's been on the big stage, and I'm sure there would have been your fair share of people giving you free advice from over the fence. But first of all, let me introduce you, Matt Srama. Welcome to the Property Couch.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, for those who are playing at home who don't know who Matt is, he is a professional NRL rugby league player for the Gold Coast Titans. Retired at the age of 26, Ben. Had a very good career, but was unfortunately cut short by injuries. We're going to delve into that. And is currently working in the development role at the Gold Coast Titans now. And I'm super excited to, first of all, learn a bit more about Matt, but also to understand the industry that he's a big part of, because he's got a story, when we were chatting in the lead up to this, he's got a story that he really wants to share, and I think it's one that people will find really interesting. So, mate, tell us a little bit about life leading up to becoming a professional athlete. What does that actually look like for someone in, did you know from a young age, or was it something that came, you realised you had your skills as a teenager? When did it become obvious that might have been a path for you?
Yeah, it's probably like yourself, fellas, in terms of you got desires and dreams when you're a young kid, and people think of being an astronaut or things like that. And as you sort of get older, people either put your dreams aside, and then you get that insecurity, and you sort of, I'm not good enough to be an astronaut, or I'm not smart enough, and things like that. But for me, it was always had that dream of playing professional sport, and playing rugby league was in the family. And yeah, probably my brief memories are sort of 5-6 years old. It started when I was that age, playing barefoot, and then just watched it, breathed it, seen brothers do it. So it was just in the brain and in the blood.
So tell us the backstory. Where were you born?
So born in Brisbane.
Brisbane, yeah. So Brisbane boy.
Born and bred, yep.
Born and bred. Tell us a bit about the family unit. What does it look like?
Yeah, so I got a father who's from Poland.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's around 72 now, I think, the old man. So there's a bit of an age gap there, and he sort of grew up around that POW, like the prisoner of war time. So he's a very stern, sort of hard man. Yeah. No emotion shown, and very, very disciplined.
Yeah.
And then my mother was from the Philippines, so just a province sort of girl, like in the islands. I'm not sure the exact story. I think Dad was travelling, and they met, and obviously somehow ended up in Australia together, and made their way to Brisbane. And yeah, just really hard-working people. My dad was a garbage truck collector back in the day, where they'd hang on the back
and then do
the
lift physical work.
Up at 3, and then he went from that.
Very fit man.
Extremely active, and always just a really hard nut sort of guy. And then he went from there to doing concrete blocks and waking up, and he would start at say 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, but he'd decide to run to work instead of driving, just because he could. Just because that's what you do. I don't know.
So hard.
He's wired different, yeah. And then my mum on the other side, from the provinces in Philippines, next to nothing, no money, so hard working in that sense. Just everything's about family and caring and stuff like that. So, and she was a lot more quietly spoken and sort of shy, and obviously coming to Australia, new country, she's very reserved. So, but in saying that, both of them had that underlying just work ethic sort of thing. And it was those times, I think, as a kid, they were hard, but it shapes who you are this day. So
You go.
So merging two cultures there, what was the money backstory as you were growing up in terms of what was the Polish background, and then obviously you described a little bit about the Philippine.
Yeah, it's funny, probably only in the last year when I started delving in. I love sort of self-development stuff and finding out why we do things, and I've always been pretty good with money in terms of I'm very cautious of what I spend, and I remember growing up, you get called things like tight or just buy that, and like I sort of think, well, do I need it? Like it's need versus want sort of thing, and you peel the onion back, and I sort of think growing up, like barely had anything. Like my parents were always very cautious, and
Yep.
my mum was a hotel cleaner earning under $10 an hour.
Minimum wage,
yeah. My dad, as I said, garbage truck. That I'm sure they didn't earn too much, but always had a house, and it was more about you buy what you need sort of thing, and then.
Yep.
So anything on top, like toys or brand new bike, was, well, we're not getting
there,
that.
yeah.
So it's hard. Like at school, you see the kids, flash Pokemon cards and things like that. It was, I sort of resorted to, picking up. I remember my first bike it had sponge wheels, and Dad, it was one that someone threw away, and he brought it home, and just things like that. But it made me really appreciate it. So I wouldn't, at the time, you're sort of like, oh man, I wish Mum and Dad would just sort of, I really want the new, I want the cards, or I want the new bike. But then as you get older and you learn more about yourself, far out, I'm really, really grateful for that.
So any brothers and sisters?
One brother and one half brother from Dad's first marriage. So yeah, just me and my brother at home.
And has he got the same mindset around money, or is he a spender? Or
he's quite similar. We're wired differently in terms of personality.
Yep.
He's very shy and a bit more reserved, but in saying that, extremely good work ethic.
Yep.
And similar, like he's different in a way where I think his finances, like he doesn't sort of manage it in terms of I guess the investment space or what to do with money, but I'm sure he's good with it. We don't talk openly about money, but
did you in the household at all? With your parents?
No. It was more just it was seriously just like, I know I'm not going to ask for
times are tough, so
I'm not going to ask for that, and that's all good. But
so it's just you saw, no spendthrift, work hard. There's no luxuries unless you need it. And then that's not saying I had a great childhood. I had everything I needed. And I've seen you see broken family, never broken, never seen them really fight. They were great parents, but just I guess that's where the money in terms of Do I need that? I think when I peel it back, that's probably where it came from for sure. How did that foundation serve you as you go from? I'm not sure what age you were when you first started playing for the Titans, but you obviously went from. Did the income spike significantly at that point?
Well, yeah, it's a funny one. I even look back now. I wasn't even aware of money, or it wasn't even part of my mind. Like I finished school and then got a few jobs. I finished at 17, then 18 to 19 was sort of like the grind period where I'm just working to try and make. I didn't even think of a career. It was literally, I want to play NRL, and my advice to kids now is don't do that. Like you shouldn't. You should have a backstop. 100%. You need to have a plan B. But I'd work at like factories and just to get that. I found a company that let me out at 2:30, so I could drive down to the Gold Coast, and I signed with the Titans at 18. And I just sort of work, 6 a.m, 5 a.m. start, work all day, then leave, and then train, drive to the coast, carpool with a few other Brizzy boys, and get home really late. And I was really lucky, but still lived at home. Mum had the food ready as soon as I got home, and in bed and repeat. And then
so strong work ethic in regards to your sports application as well. Mum and Dad driving that story for you, or were you self-motivated?
I look back, Mum and Dad never, especially Mum just sort of sat in the background and supported, but Dad never hounded me, which I see a lot of working in the space I do now. It's a common thing, like it's huge and it needs to be addressed. But Dad I never felt anyway that I was pressured. It was more I wanted to make him. If everyone would say, like growing up, oh geez, one man, well done, and it wasn't until I got in the car and Dad was like, geez, you went well. I was like, yes.
Got it.
Couldn't care less what everyone else is saying.
as long as Dad said.
If everyone's saying I played good and Dad's like, oh, you could have done this better, this better. I was sort of like, okay, like I was why I didn't take that as offensive. It was like, okay, Dad, yeah, you're right.
Because
like,
you're not getting that emotion from him because he's quite a reserved man. So
100%. And there's no emotion. Like it didn't really. Like you hear kids now, you got to be careful the way you talk to them. Everyone's wired different. You got to be careful with the words and
these days.
It's huge.
Non-judgmental.
Huge.
Yeah, you'd see
theme
a lot in
that's
your
running
development
through
role.
everywhere. It's don't
it's
judge anyone. Don't like it's building anxiety.
It is.
It's not healthy.
You really got to be resilient. That's the word. That's the word. Resilience. It's. I'm noticing it's becoming less and less for sure. But as I said, Dad. I look back now, like he never sort of put pressure or swore or anything. Nothing. It was just more. He just quiet, and then if he said I played good, then I was happy.
Cool. Share a couple of milestones with us. The first time you realised that the Titans were going to put you on their list, and the first game you played. What were those two milestones like?
Oh, massive! Like everyone, you ask any athlete what their, especially like league or AFL, what's your biggest debut game? But I got signed at sort of 18. I said that 18 to 20 was just a grind, playing the junior comp. I sort of like in AFL, they got the VFL and stuff like that. So 2 years of just grinding it out and working at the same time. And then I remember I was working at it was like a warehouse in Brisbane, and it was sort of back in the year. I ended up winning the under-20s Player of the Year. So, and I got offered to do like the pre-season sort of thing, and I was still balancing pre-season with working there. So that pre-season starts November. Had a really good pre-Christmas block. I just worked hard with all the fitness testing and won all that, and showed my skill. And unfortunately for the guy, but the lead, I played number 9 hooker. He was injured at the time, and they were a bit low on stock, so I come in as a full-time on the base salary, and I told work, I was like, see you later, man.
Thanks, man. But they knew what your aspiration was, surely, didn't
it's
they?
funny, I used to still go on a Thursday on a day off and go up and help them, because I was still living at home. I'd still go on a Thursday and earn that little bit extra, and just to repay them. Like I still talk to them now. Man, if it wasn't for them allowing me that opportunity to leave at 2:30, like it wouldn't ever happen.
So in the AFL, there's 44 players on the list. Obviously, there's only 22 that can take to the paddock every weekend, but they're all full professional. Like they all get fully paid. How does it work in the NRL? Yeah,
it's so 17's your run-on side, but it's called like a top 30.
Okay, so top 30 are paid on a salary basis, or
I'm as far as I'm aware, it changes all the time, but as far as I'm aware, it's a top 25 now.
Okay.
That's full-time there on the salary cap, this and that. Then I think there's 5 outside of that are called development contracts.
Okay.
So, I think the base, they've gone up to about 70, 80 now for those sort of they call them like training trials as well. You can invite guys in who, similar to AFL, like from VFL, they had a good year. They'll come in and do a pre-season, pre-Christmas.
Like list type,
See how they go. That's what I was sort of in at the start, pre-Christmas. Oh yeah, this kid's got something. Let's sign them to a base wage. Don't worry about working if you don't want to. But most of them are only 1 year deals, so you've got that opportunity to trial. And if you some guys, there's so many guys you'll never hear of that have done 5 to 8 pre-seasons.
Never.
Not one game. One game. And they ship themselves to St George and then Melbourne and Cowboys and
they're not getting any. What about when they run out in the twos, or do they get like a $500?
Oh, some. It's all bad, but you could be earning more, getting a full time and more stability. But I guess it depends.
You're still chasing dream, right?
You're chasing dreams, exactly.
So what is your money story now? You're a podcast listener, which I was proud of that when you mentioned that. So you're familiar with our Money Smart system, and you've kind of detailed what money was like growing up. What is it like now for you? You've been in a place where you've earned a really good income. What sort of habits would you describe as your money story now?
I guess it's growing up, you just have those habits, as you said, just about saving. So I was a big saver. So through my career, I just sort of saved. And I was never on a good, like when you when I put in perspective of guys in the NRL, I was on the lower scale for sure, and that's why I'm passionate about this, because there's guys on 4 times what I was on, and I was very much on the minimum for a lot of my career.
But the minimum's still quite good generally, isn't it, compared to society?
It's funny, and until I retired, that's what I mean. I was not really aware of money at all. It was just I was so focused on my dream, and you got this base salary or whatever, and like you hear what the other boys are on, and you're like, oh, I'm only on X amount. I'm on the lower scale. Then you retire, you're like, far out. You got to be like a doctor to earn what some of these boys are earning. Like some of these guys are earning more than lawyers, doctors, and they're straight out of school. It's bizarre. But.
So obviously in the AFL, some of the best players are on upwards of $1 million, even just overs now. But I think the average wage in the AFL is about $260 to $280 when you sort of spread it out across all the 44 players. What sort of, I mean, when we're talking about that, are we talking 500, 600,000 a year is what some of these guys are on?
I'd say all the development guys, probably under 100. A lot of the roster, 1 to 3. And then your marquees are where the money's at. So your ones who are bringing in the bums on seats, sponsorship, all that sort of they make, I guess, clubs, organisations, the business, they make room for them. I remember I was at the Titans and they signed Jared Hayne straight from the NFL. They paid I think it was like over $1 million or something like that for Hainsey to come, and he brought bums on seats. It's a business. So I guess the little majority are on. Like, people don't realise, they all think because you play NRL and like, oh man, you must be rich, and you'd be very surprised. A lot of them don't earn nothing amazing. It's those top, the ones who have been around, seasoned professionals.
And I'm assuming in your space where you're trying to break it into the big league and the big ranks, what sort of social life is there? Alcohol? Did you sort of steer clear of that? And the going out and all of that, so hence you're obviously conservative in your spending. What did a weekend look like? Was there a lot of socialising and drinking, or was it more, my eye on the prize is to debut, which we need to get to because we haven't announced when you actually did debut. What was that like for you? Yeah,
it's a funny one. I guess if you ask some of my friends and things like that about myself, it is very like, man, he needs to like come out, or when I was 17, I loved my friend. I'd always go out. I had just had this thing with not just money. It was subconscious maybe. I didn't like spend, but it was more I wanted to be prepped for the game. I was really big on preparation, and I was really disciplined around that. So I remember like a lot of times in high school, like I wouldn't go to the party because I had the game on Saturday, and little things like that. Like I always hung out with my friend. It was a massive sacrifice. And I was only told, I had a Bucks party a few weeks ago with a few mates from school, and we were just joking about it. And one of them was sort of saying, oh man, like he was on it every sort of weekend, and he remembers me always like, oh no, you go, I'm going to cruise home, whatever. And he's like, to be honest, like looking back, it didn't really matter that you didn't come. Like now, we're still mates. But at the time, you're like, oh man, the boys are probably off me or whatever. But it's sort of like, as you said, Ben. It's sacrifice always. But even in NRL, like a lot of the guys, they love a drink and things like that. It's all a balance. But I'd have a party and things like if we had a good win. But I was by no means like I'd split, get the credit card out and book booths, things like that.
Leave that to the marquee players.
Leave that to the marquee boys.
Not the rock stars who fill the bathtub up with champagne.
So Matt, you've had this experience where you've chased your dream, you achieved the playing field of being on your dream. It was cut short, and then now, I guess you've got the privilege of maybe giving a little bit back from the role that you got with the Titans. What's your observation of that cycle that you've been through in terms of if someone is listening to this who is at the beginning of the journey about to be exposed to that sort of money, or maybe the athlete who's now in that peak period of earning income and maybe don't realise what's around the corner that it drops off. What does that look like? What are some of the things you've observed, and what are some of the what's some of the wisdom that you'd want to share that someone who's listening to this goes, oh, that's the path you should take?
Yeah, and that's awesome, Bright. Like you nailed the two, I think, like demographics of where the money, like that grinding stage where you don't really know what's sort of coming, and then you need education. I think for the earlier stage, it's more about when the money does come, or you got to appreciate as well. Like your mum, you're probably going to be earning more than your mum and dad, like
combined.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do when it comes?
What do most people do with it? What's your observation? What are they? Is it Saturday night, or are they parking in assets?
Not all. I think majority just sort of save, and I think it's that mindset shift of put the money to work, and that's another space of investing, and put it to work or do something with that short period. And you look at the big picture. Average career, I think not many guys play over 50 games. I think it's only a really small percentage play over 50.
Yeah.
So that's maybe 1 or 2 seasons, max.
And it's a brutal sport, right? You're running at each other, right? Crashing into each other.
Because Matthew Lloyd, are you familiar with Matthew Lloyd from the AFL ranks? He's Essendon champion. He's retired now.
Oh, yeah.
He was coached by one of the greatest, Kevin Sheedy, right? And Kevin Sheedy pulled him aside and said, throughout your career, there's one thing you've got to make sure you do, and that's pay off your house. And it's kind of a clunky way of saying this is your peak earning power for most of you. He's now in a media career, but for most of you, make sure you don't get out of the sport without having a house fully paid off. Is there pockets of wisdom? Is there anyone giving that sort of advice? Is there someone sort of trying to guide you in the right direction? Because my observation of player agents is maybe not the cleanest of advice I've seen.
Yeah,
and not all of them, right? But some of them.
Oh, you're exactly right. It's just like any industry where the client's got some money. There's some buck to be made on the back of, you know what I mean? So I guess and it's more educated. You're in a bubble. You really are, and you're so focused on making the 17. You're focused on making rep honours. Winning. Keeping your spot, not getting injured, coming back from injury, that investing and money is sort of like, I'll deal with that later. Like,
does the club bring in some speakers to talk about financial matters or anything like that? Or
they're starting to. They're starting to make, because you hear these horror stories of guys on, like I know a guy, I'm not going to name, but big money and nothing, and literally nothing.
Yeah, it's rampant through the NBA and through American football and all that.
Isn't it?
Where they've got all this money and they've got nothing to show for it. They're bankrupt.
Because we had Andrew Bogut on, and he was talking about how he had to sort of wade through the advice that was given to him.
Yeah.
And, the guys that had the $1 million watches and the suits, he gave them a wide berth versus educating himself first so that he knew what he was seeing, and then B, being very clear on who he chose.
I think you're right, Brian. I think that's the main thing, is education for yourself, and you've got to be accountable. Every action that comes in your life is a result of yourself, really. But as a footy player and as an athlete, you're so reliant. Your schedule comes to you. Sometimes your food's done when we go fly away games. Like, I just get my bag and the manager will go, all right, we're on the bus at this. Breakfast is that room, massage is this time. Sweet. You don't take... So in the player ages, as you're saying, Bryce, they're supposed to be like your sort of guiding light and financial, unless guys source their own financial people. Not many do.
We work with footy players, and I remember, this is going back many years now, but we had one particular player come in and we were buying a house for him, and his player manager came along and we were like, that's great. And I overheard as they were walking out, he's like, I'm not quite, like the player manager needed to just be involved rather than sort of saying the subject matter experts just said that, and the player manager's sort of now like, didn't really have that subject matter expertise, knew how to maybe get a contract for sponsorship and all of those things, which can, maximise their earning in that short window. But this was to buy an owner-occupied home. Now, it turned out to be a great investment. In fact, you bought the property, if you remember, Bryce, in the inner city of Melbourne. It's gone very, very well.
It's gone very well.
So it's been good for that particular player. But we do get those types of, so it's sort of like, if your player managers can do some great work, but it's like, okay, well, you've got the subject matter expert in. But the problem with that is that everyone wants an action, right?
100%.
And everyone wants a piece of it, because that particular player you're talking about, Ben, the dad rang me. And he was not happy because he didn't know who I was and thought that I was another one of the sharks in the shark bar. So there's just this bubble that surrounds
100%.
these people. So because you've listened to our podcast. Ben and I are very passionate about people making, if they don't listen to anything we say other than the asset selection bit, that's critical, right? But quite often the player managers have, I'm going to speak generally here because there might be player managers here, aren't there? Sure. But generally my observation is that player managers have relationships with brand new developers, and then they get them. I've seen it, I've observed it, and then later on they realise that that's not quite the right stock. Now, Ben, you're right. I'm not tarring everyone. I just want to be clear, but that's my observation that I've seen.
And I've spoken to develop things, and there's a learning.
I've spoken to the AFL Players Association too, so it's not like I'm just having to go from the outside.
No, you're right, and I guess for the listener, any athletes listening, just a case study, like some of my closest friends at the Titans linked in with manager via accountant, all the same accountant, off the plan purchase on the Gold Coast, brand new, a lot of Greenland, you know how it is, apartment, and just at the peak, bought it, and a few of them went to court because, like, hold on, I paid this, it's worth this, and they all, I think most of them lost because it's your fault. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's by the way, right?
You signed a contract.
You trusted your manager and accountant. But you're right. Some managers are great, but it's like you say, what your service, stick to what managers are great at negotiating deals and getting the best
commercial arrangements.
Yeah. If you want to buy property, go see a property person.
And the other big thing for professionals is gambling.
Yes.
Because you've got so much downtime. We've obviously heard rumours.
And competitive.
And competitive.
Yep.
That's there's horror stories globally around gambling issues, obviously well publicised.
Yeah, Schwatter.
David Swartz was well documented in terms of his gambling addiction that he had, and there are other players, current and past, who have lost a lot of money of what they earned because they didn't put it into sensible investments, or in our case sensible bricks and mortar, but potentially not new off the plan stuff.
That's a very dark but real space, and seeing it firsthand, and any athlete listening to this knows, like, do you know what I mean? You see your mate, he's been there for about an hour, 2 hours, just slapping. It's sort of like, and you do hear stories, and there's been past players that the NRL uses them as examples of why you don't gamble. Good. You hear, they're on $1 million a year, and they literally would wash their weekly salary in, like, just at the pokies and race horses, and it's a culture thing as well. Like,
and for anyone who's listening to this around gambling, there's obviously gambling helplines and all that. We'll put some of those things in the show notes. But just think about it like this. I cannot explain this any simpler. For every dollar you put in a machine, the bank, in other words, the poker machine will collect 13 cents. Right. So, and in some cases, it's calibrated to collect 6 cents. In the big gambling establishments, they have to pay out a little bit higher. But just think about it logically, right? So these machines are programmed with algorithms to take that 6 or 13 cents. Now, if you are extremely lucky, where you go to a machine and it pays you out, and that's how it entices you in, but the longer you play, it is impossible to win. It'll take 13 cents off you for every dollar you put in, or in the big establishments, it'll take 6 cents off you. So there is no return on investment here. It is a random bit of luck, but the longer you play them, the more you will lose. And they'll take that. So that's the challenge these people have. So you cannot win playing poker machines longer term.
Yeah, I used to work at the Burswood Casino over in Perth. It's now the Crown, but I've seen it firsthand. I've only seen 3 people in a 3-year time in that casino who won big. One won $1 million, one won 236, one won 178. So, and I was in the casino a lot.
And I can promise you, Bryce, if we went back to those ones who
they don't have it now,
that they would have gone back and put more.
Correct.
My folks live up on the Murray River, and the golf clubs and all that have the pokies in there, and they talk about, Mary won $8,000, and then you circle back 2 years later and, Mary's just going in to have another go to try and get that. She's given it all back 100%. And then some. So it's very dangerous. So be careful of gambling.
Let's dive into your property story, Matt. You, when we chatted on the phone, you talked about the fact that you wanted to establish your own sense of knowledge and understanding, and also set your own path with property. So talk us through that. What was it? What was the point where you realised you had to do something for yourself, and then what path did you take?
Yeah, I sort of just reflecting, just as you say that now. I think back, it came. I had a fair few injuries in the back end of my career, And, you know, you go to the scans and so many, I couldn't count how many scans and x-rays I had. I was in a waiting room at Burleigh. I still remember Burleigh Treetops x-ray, and just in the waiting room waiting for my x-ray. I think I had coming off hip surgery. And there's you got all the magazines there.
Yeah.
Had not even delved into property space at all. Not even dabbled in it. Parents are the one house, pay it off quickly. You know, not even the word investment was ever mentioned. And I picked up, it was the only one available. Like, I just wanted to read something because my phone was flat or something. And it was your Australian property, the one that's finished now?
API.
Yeah, API.
Yeah.
And I picked it up and I was just sort of reading through it, and so, okay, yeah. Then I just sort of, you see these stories, like little success stories and things like that, and I'm like, okay, property. And I've always been, I love numbers, I guess, and a bit of data and the graphs and looking at things, and I love like maps of Australia and just reading it, and more and more stories. And I got called in for my scan, went in there. And actually, I still remember, it's still in my bathroom at home. I actually took it. So it's still got the sticker.
Please do not
Q scan Burleigh. Sorry, I did.
Yeah, they're going to send you an invoice.
100%. I will go back and pay for it. Like, I was just like really intrigued. So I grabbed it on the way out and took it home. And on the toilet, I just read it all the time. And I don't know, just from that, and then I got on YouTube and just started property investing, Australian, how to invest and all this sort of stuff. And I don't know, it just sort of sparked something, and that's where it really got into it. And I was sort of like, because I just had, as I said, a really good saver, but what's it doing? It's just sort of, I just used to put in a term deposit.
Yeah, bugger all at the moment in a term deposit.
Yeah. And I'd sort of get the money back at the end of the year. You know, you earned this amount. Like, yeah, not bad. Like, I'll do it for another 12 months, sure. Keep focus on my career and stuff like that. And then I was like, I'll do something with, like, you know what I mean? Like, you hear and you read these stories. It's proof of, man, people can make a living or make success and get way better returns from actually doing it. It's more that the fear of like, okay, I've got to depart with a deposit here. What if it goes bad? It's that mindset of like.
So how long from reading that book till you actually did pull the trigger?
I'd say that a few months, to be honest. Yeah, I just went crazy on YouTube and
knowledge building.
And it's funny because I was injured. I had a lot of you do your rehab in the morning. Yeah. So you come in, you do your pool work and your little exercises and see the physio massage, and then you're done for the day. So it's more like, there's so much downtime, and that's why gambling, I think, you're bored. So I just went on the property space and then I started looking. Like, that's when I reversed back a bit. I got an owner-occupier before that as I knew I needed to get property. Yeah.
On the Goldie or back home in Brisbane?
No, in Palm Beach on the Gold Coast, and loved it. And that's when I was like, okay, like that was my success. I got a property like mum and dad did. That's it. Put the feet up.
Queue on the rack.
Yeah, queue on the rack. I've done it. This will pay off in 30 years. The loan says 30 years. Sweet. And then, then the investment thing come, you know, I was still getting money coming in, and it was like, then I started looking at, and as you do, where did I look? Palm Beach, just in your back
next to you. In your back.
Palm Beach is the other right there. I got a property in Palm Beach. It's taken a while, but
exactly right. So I didn't even look at any other suburb. I was like, Palm Beach. So I just started looking in Palmy, and fun, like putting in offers and learning more. And still to this day, my biggest like help was this random broker from Suncorp. My loan was with Suncorp at the time, and mate, he helped me so. I had that many questions because I was a single guy on my own. Just got my own house. I had no one to talk to about. My parents, no idea. None of the boys are doing anything. So I was just like, I used to feed him questions, so many questions. Like, okay,
how did you get your original loan? Did you? Was it through him?
Yeah. So this is probably a reflective mistake, but not a mistake, a learning. You know, like, Mum, who do you have your insurance at? Suncorp. Okay, no offence.
No. They got the name on a stadium.
And I know that Mum and Dad use Suncorp for their house insurance, so
straight in there.
Of course, local.
Did you get an offset, or did they give you
I think
just
he
the
set it.
basic
I think he set it up with an offset.
Oh, that's
I
good.
know. I just put my
whatever.
full trust.
Yeah, trust.
Full trust in him. Yeah, mate. I got this. I want to buy a house. Oh, sweet. Let's set it up. Bang, bang in the thing, and all that sort of set up. And then it wasn't till probably, obviously, learning a few years down the track, refinance. I was like, man, I've overpaid. I could have got way better rate if I went to what they called a broker.
Yep.
I was like, what's a broker? I'll just go to the bank. It's all good. So that was probably a bit of a light bulb and a bit of advice. I'd say go to a broker rather than your mum and dad's bank.
Just choice, right? So
it is. Choice and, it is choice. Yeah.
And then you get better brokers than others, right? It's like doctors. You get some good doctors and some okay doctors.
And we refine that by saying an investment savvy broker. But,
exactly.
So I guess the interesting part is trying to sort of see the observations. You've described that the focus for the athlete is on the prize. All the other stuff is just a distraction, and you're happy to outsource the trust to other people. Yep. And then over time, you then started to educate yourself, and was YouTube, books, podcasts at the time, or
not a little bit, but more YouTube. Just smashing YouTube, and then stumbled across a podcast, your boys' podcast. Funnily enough, was the first one, and then got
nothing else to see there. Mate. Job's done.
And just got real deep into the ins and outs, and okay, how do you do this? And then it was sort of that. After I got the Palmy, it was a unit, but I'm really happy. It's done really well, and really grateful. Like a bit of luck, I guess you could say, in a way. Like you create your own luck, but Palm Beach did extremely well back in 2013, 14 when I got my own occupier unit. I got that 2014, 15, and it was. I stuck to the fundamentals of block of 8, old. You can see the beach from the balcony. There's all these flash new ones getting built, and it's like
thank you, Sunland.
First question, body core was sinking fun. Little block of 8, boutique, own occupier. Just all that sort of stuff, and you ended up getting it like an off. I missed out on the top level one. And then, funnily enough, that guy called the old lady downstairs on her own and said, "There's this guy I just missed out." And then my first ever investment property was a nego. Like me and this old lady communicating. But it was so slow because she was very old school with her solicitor. Everything was posted.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, email straight to mine. This is the offer. This is, and then I'd literally wait 3 or 4 days for a response.
Wait for the pigeon to turn up. So I guess what's the trying to wrap up all the observations and all the learnings. What are you saying directly? If I'm someone who's in your position, based on what you've learned, what are you saying to the professional athlete, to the NRL footballer? What should they specifically? What's the next foot in front of the other? What should they specifically be doing to make sure that they take advantage of the window of opportunity of good money, development, marquee, wherever you are? How do they best take advantage of the window of time that they're about to experience that they don't know will run out?
Well, I guess that the first thing is the awareness of you're probably never going to earn the amount you're earning in that period ever again, and that might shift the mindset of, better either save it and do something with it, or I think you get in that bubble of it's just going to keep, and I'm going to have it long. I thought I was going to play till 35, like as you see a lot of guys do, but I guess it's a mindset of your career could literally end tomorrow. You're going to earn that amount of money. It's going to be the best income you'll ever have. You'll probably never earn that much ever again. So put it to work, and then off the back of that, it's more do your own. Like you're an athlete for a reason because you're self-motivated, yourself. Go apply that to life and outside of the bubble.
Yeah, attack the world.
And don't always trust the people trying to have a. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not to say some people just don't know any different.
Be naturally sceptical.
And
then move towards trust on that trust gauge as they demonstrate their skill and expertise.
100%. Do your research and do knowledge and have balance. I think is a big one with being an athlete. And it's hard to say that to it because it's like 100%. This is my life, and I think it's important to have something outside of your sport as well. Yeah.
So with your property story then, so what's the end goal? What's your strategy? So you've read the magazine, you've now invested in property, you've got your own occupier residence. What are you aiming for towards now?
Yeah, I've just got this. Obviously, then I started getting deep in the investments and listening to more stories and what's possible and looking at my income and the properties I have. It's more, I just want to create freedom, I guess, and I guess we're all chasing to live life on our own terms, really, aren't we? I heard this quote, I forget where it was, but it was really interesting. It's like we're all working towards having that freedom we had as kids again.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
trying to circle back to where we were.
We're just trying to circle back to where we were, really.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I love what I do now, but essentially it's like, who wouldn't want to go travel if you want to, or I want to be able to spend time. If I don't want to get up and go to work, you don't have to. Then that's all it is. And I'm not saying I'd retire and just put the feet up. It's more I'd apply it to doing passion projects, or maybe starting my own business or something like that, if I want to.
Yeah.
But I don't have that cloud over my head where I've got the income worrying, because I've been unemployed for different stages, and if I didn't have my property portfolio bringing in the rent, I was all good having time off work to find out what I really want to do. I was in no stress to, far out, my funds are getting low. I need a job now. I'll take a labouring job. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's just choice. It's just gives choice. So that's a goal, I guess.
So have you defined the end goal? Do you know where you're headed, or you're just in the accumulation phase at this stage?
Definitely accumulation stage, but I'd love to be financially free, so to speak. Not so much retire, but financially free in a healthy position. A passive of, say, 80 to 90k a year would be enough. I'd say I've sort of done a bit of work around what I'd need to live the lifestyle, but that's at this time. But I'd say I'd easily have a good
We'll give you
travel.
a book on the way out. That's 104,000 a year. We can 2,000 a week. So you can read that one on the way home.
So by the time I've always had this age of like 40, I'd love to be financially free by 40. So in my 30s, really delving into paying down debt, and but still in my 20s, it's more accumulation and just being really specific, not rushing as well, making sure the asset is bringing in what I need it to do, and based off the portfolio now, and just continue learning.
Nice.
So I can tell by your conservative nature. So when you did have those injuries that obviously brought your career to an end, an early end, did you have a buffer? Like, had you planned for a buffer, or were you in that sort of, that property I've just bought? You obviously would have had a contract over a period of time, and they pay that contract out. And in some cases, some players also have an insurance claim where their ankle won't allow them to keep playing, so they can get so without sort of going into detail, but did you consciously have some money set aside for a rainy day as part of your strategy? Yeah,
definitely. And again, back to the habit, I was always always had
like a war chest.
I always liked having a buffer, always liked seeing a good amount of money in my savings and things like that. So when
and your primary offset.
Primary offset, definitely. And always sort of, it just felt comfortable. I wouldn't go to bed sort of stressing. So when it came to retire, I was like, that wasn't a stress. And I know a lot of guys go down a deep spiral because it's like, because it's bad enough, it's stressful enough thinking what to do next in terms of what the next, let alone where the money going to come from.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing anything with your money while you're playing, Ben, that's a really good, I guess, advice for the guys as well. You got to have that buffer for when you retire, because that transition period is very, very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. Yeah.
Well, we're actually going to talk about that. So for the listeners, Ben, I'm going to. So the connection here is that Matt was listening to our podcast, listened to Jamin.
Yep.
Went and spoke to
Jamin Fraser.
Yep. So I thought it'd be good for us to get together. So we're going to record that a bit later today and do it, put it on the podcast a little bit later. But we might unpack that a little bit more.
That'd be awesome.
That'll be a bit of fun. So stick around for that, folks. But
so we didn't get your debut. What was the date that you debuted?
We won't mention this because Ben asked another question before you answered the question. So.
Yeah. I was 20. It was 2011. I think it was round 12 against the Canterbury Bulldogs. Funnily enough, it was at Suncorp Stadium where I grew up, Brisbane. So I had a bit of family, some friends there, and ended up winning our man of the match for the game and played 80 minutes. And it was just like, I still remember the feeling so clearly running out as you ask any athlete, just the roar, and it's just phenomenal. Yeah.
What's the that's a memorable one. What's the most, like, a grand final or state of origin game, or what's the pinnacle game that you played in?
Oh, it's really hard. Like, I always allude back to that. It's just
the pinnacle one.
Yeah, it's more because of what it means. Like, you sort of reflect back to me and my brother, and I think back to like us competing. Like, we were so competitive, and seeing him nearly make it but not make it, and Dad not, like, I was the first in our generation of Srama to get there, and I know it meant a lot to them. So it was just that, like, far out. Like, since I was 5, I dreamed of this, and I'm literally achieving it. Like, you got to be grateful. Like, you can always expect more, and always want, but man, my goal was always just to run out like one game, literally. So that's always going to be the pinnacle, and yeah.
And what about when you face the opposition and on the other team it's one of your idols? What's that like?
Yeah. It's always a funny one. And you ask any rookie, like, their first year, it's a mix of excitement but then you get nervous because, like, a guy you've been idolising your whole life is
running at you.
Yeah,
you've got to tackle it.
Yeah, and like, I remember you guys probably don't, more the league guys who listen, like Mick Ennis, he's just a pest on, like, loves to chat, and he played for the Bulldogs and he was the opposing hooker, and I really looked up to him because he was just a mongrel and
trash talk.
Oh, he was just so mean to me. You know? I was like,
you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Don't go judging me.
I don't remember your post off my wall when I get home. Yeah.
But it's funny, like, at the end of the game, because there's that respect for mutual position, and he knew it was my debut. He actually said, "Mate, you played really well. You got a great career coming up." And I was like, "Yeah." Well, but there was a few other guys who weren't that nice after the game. You sort of like, man, I used to think he was a nice guy. He just elbowed me in the play.
That's right. Gave you one in the ribs when no one was looking. So, well, mate, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thanks for giving us an insight into the money story of a professional NRL footballer. Life after football for you is still at the club. Is that stimulating you and keeping you busy?
Yeah, it's like that void, you know, it fills that void. I went into the real estate space and investments, and that opened doors for my portfolio where it is now, and I learnt so much. But it's like that balance, as I said, I love investing in property and that side as a personal. I realised I didn't really want to work. I needed to get back outdoors and in the sun and not sit at a desk. So I remember I quit my job with nothing planned. I just knew deep down that it wasn't me, and so I just spoke to a few people and did a few odd jobs that weren't it was in the sports space, and then an opportunity came up literally at the Titans after making a phone call, and I had to wait around 6 months for the opportunity to arise, and it came up and I got the job, and I've been in that for basically a year to date, and it's been, honestly, I wake up every morning really, really energised and grateful, and that's another thing to the athletes. It's like, you should be pursuing what you want to do, not so much because you have to. Now, I wouldn't have quit if I didn't have a bit of rent coming in. You know what I mean? I wasn't too worried that I could just leave my job in an instant. I love my job. Yeah, definitely.
Well done, mate. Great story.
Yes, terrific stuff.
There's a fair bit in that, so hopefully our listeners got a lot of benefit out of that, Ben. So my life hack's around napping. So as an athlete, is that part of the regime for energy management? Is there any napping?
I'm just going off to have another nap.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. This year at the Titans, the welfare team put in a room with 2 beds in it.
And former time, Ben.
Right, and it's becoming really, really popular amongst...
Where's Bryce? He's having a nap on the couch.
I've heard the Broncos, they've got amazing facility up there, and some of the other clubs, they've got rooms with beds in it. It's all dark and things like that, but I guess it's that energy management. So
Energy management, that's Jamin Fraser 101 there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my life hack on how long you should nap for, Ben.
Okay, do tell.
All right, so 10 to 20 minutes. That'll
I'm going
boost
into
your
a nap stage right now.
Well, we used to do it around Did You Know, don't we, Ivis? To boost alertness, energy, and refresh yourself, 10 to 20.
Okay.
Here's the tip, Ben. 30 minutes, never. This will leave you feeling extremely groggy. 60 minutes to improve your fact, face, and name recognition. And 90 minutes, Ben, to improve emotional, procedural memory, and creativity.
Oh, very good.
So there
And
you go.
where did that bit of research come from?
That came from the internet and via Google, maybe through the Dublin server.
I have definitely heard before, I only have 15-minute naps, don't go to 30 minutes because you go out the other side.
Yep.
So that grogginess, I've heard that before.
Yep. So there you go. There's my life hack, Ben. Did you know?
Did you know, Bryce? So we've got some research here from Uno. So they put a report out
Uno,
this year.
as in the card game?
No. Well, Uno as in the lender.
Yep.
So it's one of these new challenger lenders or neo lenders as they call them. So they've got a report out at the moment called Household Financial Waste.
Oh.
So this is people wasting money. You know, I've always talked about leaving money on the table, making your money work. Well, here it is. In the past 12 months, Australian households, this is what they've wasted.
Come on, give it.
$9.1 billion on food waste.
Oh, that's a lot.
Okay. Home loan waste, hence they were doing the report, $4.2 billion, and I'll get into home loan waste in a minute. Unused gym memberships, we're talking basically $1.8 billion.
Made the top three.
It makes the top three. We've talked about the gym memberships before. Standby energy usage.
Ooh.
And this does annoy me in the office, I've got to admit, when people leave.
Oh gosh,
because,
this will go for a
you
while
know,
now.
There we go. I'm almost warming up. Turn your monitors off, completely off. When they're on standby, they're running at about 60 or 70% power, so we're just wasting money. Unused clothing. For all those people who buy those clothes that they never wear, $930 million. Credit card waste, $621 million. Exceptional bank fees. We're talking about $551 million, making the shareholders happy. Unused roadside assistance. Well, but you need it there, I don't mind. $400 million. Unused gift cards, the ones that expire. $332 million going to consolidated revenue for all of those companies who do the gift cards. So not bad wastage.
That was part of the business model of, those email where you'd get those really discounts.
Yeah.
Part of the thing was that they wouldn't.
Correct. They just don't use them, and then when you go and use them, it's like, oh, sorry, it's actually done. It's expired.
Home loan waste. Come on, Ben. You build us up to the climax.
Drivers of home loan. These are the drivers. There's 3 of them. 53% of the consumers don't know their current interest rate. That really speaks volumes to me. 59% of the consumers have never asked for a better rate. Pick up the phone, call your lender, ask them, can you do me a better
deal? Do you know what your interest rate is?
No. No. Yep, she's in the 53%. I sort of know. No, I've got several loans, so they fluctuate around a bit. 78% have never had a conversation about paying their home loan off faster. Come back to the book. We've got an example. We've got a case study in there. Make money simple again. And we will show you how to pay it off and how much you can save.
Yes.
So 78% have never had a conversation about paying off a home loan sooner. And there's calculators on the web. Get on the calculators, and if I paid an extra $50, how much would I save?
Well said.
There
Food waste, Ben, by a country
waste.
mile, but then second is home loan waste.
Home loan waste, $4.2 billion. So thank you, Uno, for that household financial waste report. We want money working hard for us. Every dollar's got a job to do, doesn't it, Bryce?
Sits in the offset account. So again, thanks for your time today, Matt.
Cheers, thanks,
we
Matt.
certainly enjoyed having you on the couch. And Ben, until next week.
Knowledge is empowering, Bryce, but only if you act on it.
Well said. See you next week, folks. Hey there, folks. Bryce Holdaway here. Before you go, if you're new to our community and only listened to maybe a handful of episodes, I thoroughly recommend that you go all the way back to episode number 1, where we unpack all of the foundations when it comes to property investing. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit time poor, I've got good news for you. We have a binge guide that you can download straight away, which summarises the first 20 episodes where Ben and I unpack the foundational pillars of the A, B, C, D, and so much more. And you can get that straight away. If you go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20, you can download it and consume it whenever you want. It's completely free. and available now. And for those of you, just a quick reminder that nothing we've spoken about today constitutes financial advice. We recommend that you reach out to your licensed professional advisor so that you can look at your unique circumstances before acting on any information. Now don't forget, go to thepropertycouch.com.au/TPC20 and get your binge guide today.